So oftentimes I hear beginning and intermediate level adult cello players talk about the tone that they're producing with the cello, the sound that they are making, and perhaps they're not happy with where they are based on the amount of time that they've been playing. They feel like they should be playing better at this point, whether that's a year or 3 years or 2 months. And some of this has to do with understanding a bit about the physics of what's happening with the instrument, how this sound is being produced. And additionally, there are 3 really important bowing techniques that really should be understood and thought about as a tone is being produced on the cello. And once these things are in place, the sound does actually get better. I'm going to give you 3 really important right hand bow techniques to think about to make your sound better. And I'm Carolyn with Cello Discovery, and let's go ahead and get in and talk about these elements. Okay, so let's first talk about the cello. How does this thing even work? So by now you figured out that the strings resonate and the strings vibrate this direction. And that's a really important thing to remember, because this is the key to making a great sound, is knowing that the strings vibrate this direction. So the second thing, how do we make it vibrate? So the hair, as we know, it has a rosin that we put on it. Now the rosin's a little bit sticky, and once the hair with the rosin touches the string, that connects with this sort of adhesive quality. They feel like they're almost sticking together. Now, when you start to draw the bow, either this direction or this direction, you are simply pulling that string as far as that tension will allow. And once the tension is too great, it releases. And so that's the friction that we have between the two, the hair and the string. It's this friction grabbing and releasing. Now, once it releases, it's setting the string in motion this direction. Now, we also have what we call sliding friction. Now, sliding friction is very much like friction, where it grabs the string, sets it in motion, and releases it. But it happens over and over and over during the course of a single bow stroke. Now, I'm going to show you slow motion, because maybe you've never really thought about this or seen this before. Once the hair touches the string and it pulls it, you can see that the hair is grabbing and releasing and grabbing and releasing and grabbing and releasing throughout the duration of that whole bow stroke. And that is how the sound is made, through this series of sliding friction that's going on. Grab and release, grab and release. Now, in order for that string to be able to do that, the bow must be bowing more or less perpendicular to the string, or I say often parallel to the bridge. So these two have to line up and be parallel. Once you start angling the bow too far this direction, you will cut off the vibrations. It's like putting a mute on it and you're trying to speak and nothing comes out, because there's no voice to resonate at that point. So it has to stay parallel to the bridge. And there are variances to that, of course, but for a general rule, that's how it needs to be. And in order to set that string in motion, to keep that string in motion, to keep it vibrating, there are 3 really important elements, technical elements, that you have to have in place and have to be thinking about all the time while you make a really nice sound. The first is the weight of the bow, the weight into the string. And what I mean by that is simply the amount of pressure, for lack of a better word, that you are sinking into the string with the bow. That weight comes all the way from your back, down your shoulders, into your hands. It's pouring down this direction, and that's weight. We can have a lot of weight. That's too much weight. We can have not enough weight. That's too airy. The right amount of weight gives you the right sound, in combination with number 2, which is the speed. Now, the speed of the bow simply means how fast and how slow you draw the bow. Now, it doesn't mean the tempo of the piece that you're playing. That's something else. It simply means the speed. How quickly do you have to get across the bow to get where you need to get on the bow? And when you combine that with the weight, you can get a good sound. Now, as you're playing and you hear a sound, you have to stop and analyze what's happening. Why is the sound not being produced the way you want it to? So let's play a G. I'm going to have too much weight for the speed, and this is what I get. The string is just getting cut off. So I can keep that same weight and simply go a little bit faster with the bow. And then I get a really nice tone. And a similar thing will happen if I don't have enough weight with that same speed. It's a soft sound, but it's not really grabbing and releasing. Now what happens with a lot of beginning and intermediate players is that they feel like, okay, I have all this bow, I have to use all this bow. No matter how much weight or speed that you use, you can't get a good sound if you're using too much bow. So think about using less bow. Think about where you are in the bow. Where are you going with the bow? Where do you have to end up in the bow for what you're playing? And where this is the most noticeable is probably the A and the C string, so the bookends of the strings. The C string. Now, there are two things that you have to keep in mind. You really have to bow right into the waist here, the middle part. And if you stay right in here, you're going to be staying pretty much parallel with your bridge. And the C string needs a little bit more weight. It's a bigger string, it vibrates slower, the grab and release happens a little bit slower, so you have a tendency to make a skidding sound versus a really nice tone if the speed is too fast. So if you're bowing right in here and you're not going too fast, and you watch the middle section of the string, the halfway point, you should really see it vibrating big right in here. If you don't, one of those technical elements is off. Now, the third most important concept to always be aware of is what we call the contact point. Now, the contact point is where the hair makes contact with the string. And for the most part, you want to try to keep your contact point in the same place. If you're playing a louder passage on the A string or D string, you're going to be a little bit closer to the bridge. If you're playing a softer passage, it might be a little bit closer to the fingerboard. But for the most part, you want to try to keep that contact point in the same place. Now, yes, there is variation to that. A lot of professionals know and feel the weight and speed, and they can move that bow, move that contact point closer to the bridge in such a way where it doesn't affect the weight and the speed, and they can still change that contact point. I'm going to exaggerate and show you a contact point that's just really out of whack here. You can feel it. You can feel the vibrations in your hand. You can feel that the string is not really vibrating. It starts to vibrate and then it gets stifled. It starts and then it gets stifled. So keeping that contact point will get a really nice sound. So those are the primary things that you need to do and be thinking about when you're playing. And learning how to analyze the sound is what will make you play better. So if you're getting a fuzzy sound, or you're getting a chunky sound, or it doesn't seem to be ringing, stop and think, do I have enough speed? Do I have too much speed? Is there too much weight? How about my contact point? How does it look? So analyze these things and see how they all work together so that you can get the very best sound that you can possibly get. If you're having some other issues, let's say you've got your weight, speed, contact point good, but you're still not sounding good, leave me a message below in the comments and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on with your particular sound. And if you want to learn more about playing the cello as an adult, there's a very comprehensive program online called cellodiscovery.com. I urge you to check it out and see if it interests you. And I thank you for watching today, and good luck getting the very best sound that you can.